Hello and welcome to Against the Storm. Now, this is a sort of new game. It's still in early access, like a lot of games nowadays, to be honest. It's on Steam, available on Steam, but it was actually only just came on Steam tail end of last year, but it was actually available on the Epic's Game Store tail end of 2021. So in some ways, it's been out over a year. I only got it at the end of last year, and this is just some initial tips for the very early game, and just to sort of guide you around some of the mechanics and some of the things that aren't necessarily explained that well in the tutorial as it is at the moment. Now, where this game is at the moment, the one you're seeing in front of you, this is just after you've finished the tutorial. Technically, I sort of started the game and had to cancel it, which was my first attempt to record this video, when I discovered halfway through it had paused. Minor technical issue, so I just cancelled that game. So if you're familiar and wondering why the timeline has progressed a bit, that's why. And we'll start with this timeline. As you saw in the tutorial, when it hits here, basically that's the end. And the idea of the game is you're gathering food. And each settlement, you notice how you've got these, look like little hot cross buns. If you're English, you know what those are. If you're from overseas, you may not. And basically, when you settle a settlement, all those hexes, like the centre one and the 6 surrounding ones, will generate food for the citadel. And that's why the rewards are 14 food. And the idea is basically you need to get loads of resources for the citadel before the great storm turns up, and it will destroy everything other than the smouldering city, and then repeat. Now, as you see, at this stage there's no other settlements. There's this thing here, which is a modifier. There's these question marks, but they're so far away you can't settle them. Later on, as you get upgrades, you'll be able to see further away initially. As you settle, if you were to settle, say here, when you completed it, you'd then find out probably what that is. And most of what those are, they're going to be modifiers like this. Now, if you see here, the rewards up in the top left, 16 food. That's because, well, this thing, as well as giving you a fertile grounds modifier, is giving you +2 food. So let's go for that, because that's a good start. Now this is the first screen, and this is where you get to choose who's on your caravan. Now you can go for 9 lizards, and that's it. No other people. So that will guarantee you to actually have 9 lizards at the start. Or you can go for 6 beavers, 3 lizards, and 2 somethings. Could be beavers, could be lizards, or could be some other race. There are 4 races in the game at the moment: beavers, lizards, harpies, and humans, but you will only ever have a total of 3 in any given settlement. So that is not going to be 1 harpy and 1 human. It's either going to be 2 harpies, 2 humans, or one of them plus one of these 2. Or even a beaver and a lizard. But this is the stuff that they're going to bring with them automatically. You can get to choose extra stuff. As you do upgrades at the Smouldering City, you'll have more available here. You'll have more embarkation points. At this stage, it's a no-brainer, you just click everything. But before you start, you can go to summary and get a summary of the difficulty level, map size, what reputation you need to reach to win, what impatient points will cause you to fail, how much fertile soil there is by default, not counting any modifiers, and what rewards there are at base. You may find more stuff as you play, but base you'll get 16 food and 30 experience. Also, what modifiers apply. You know there will be 2 good modifiers based on seasonal conditions and 1 bad one. And in addition to that 1 bad one, there is always the general one that during the storm there is going to be a penalty to global resolve. Additional effects, well, you've got fertile ground, which is coming from this thing here. Basically increased chance of glades having fertile soil. And gifts of the woodlands. While woodlands are lush and rich in timber, trees give more wood. These are all the resources you can get from trees. These are all the resources you can find as deposits in glades. You may find other stuff in glades, in caches or what have you, but by default that's what you get. Difficulty level, self-explanatory. And the embark button, that's what starts, so we'll hit that. Now, every sort of starting glade, well, first of all, we'll just quickly go over the details here. So we already know about the fertile grounds, the gift of the woodlands. We've got settler's luck, 35% chance of not consuming food. That's basically because of our difficulty level. And these are the environmental effects. So you've got golden dust, get clearance water, 5 clearance water for every 10 drizzle water. The whole sort of water system has just changed as I'm recording this, and to be honest, I don't really know anything at all about it. So that bit is all Greek to me. That only applies during the drizzle season, as does this one. Basically, villagers with this effect have a +1 bonus to their resolve. A stack of this effect is added every 60 seconds, but to gain this boost, not only does it need to be drizzle, but they need to be fulfilling their 2 complex food needs. And the bad things, well, we know about the looming darkness, that's the one that's always there. And then there's this one. Resources sacrificed in the ancient hearth burn 40% quicker. That only applies in the storm season and if hostility is at 3. Now we started with just lizards. Now the first thing you want to do is hit that little arrow, and that gives you a breakdown of all the things that you can do to increase their resolve, any positive modifiers to resolve, any negative modifiers to resolve, and this button here. What this does is when you hit it, we can't do it at the moment, you would get a +5 bonus to lizard's resolve and -5 to everyone else. At least they seem to have at least plugged the loophole of I've only got lizards, let's give them lighter treatment and get a bonus to resolve and no negative. Then we've got our glade here. It's got a couple of resources in here. We've got some meat resources, and it tells you here what sort of camps are needed. So either a small trappers camp or the large trappers camp. Difference between them, you know how they got those star symbols. Basically, the recipe for something, the more stars, the more you get per cycle. So there are, if we click on that, 15 charges. But with this, if we had a trappers camp, we'd be getting more meat out of those 15 charges than we would with the small trappers camp. Over here we've got a flax field, that needs a harvester's camp. And you noticed here, this is greyed out. That's because we don't currently have the blueprint for it. And then we start with our hearth, and we've only got lizards, so we've got a lizard in there. And as you see, lizard firekeepers are very adept at ancient rites. You get +1 to global resolve with a lizard firekeeper. Also, you've got the upgrade requirements. This is something that's quite useful to pay attention to early on, because when you upgrade it, you get a little boost from the hub. And over here you got your warehouse. Now, something that isn't really mentioned in the tutorial, you can build a few more things than they show. The first is roads. And paths, they give a 5% speed increase to villagers. But very importantly, unlike anything else, like paved roads, paths cost nothing to build. So what I recommend early on is do something like this. So you have paths around the places that your people are always wanting to go to. So they're always wanting to go around to the hearth to rest early on. They're always wanting to go to the warehouse to drop stuff off, pick stuff up. So that's the first tip. Now next here you've got your various resources. Down here you've got the breakdown of the thing you got selected up here. So food, you've got 30 berries, 50 eggs, 20 roots. Here 20 parts for wildfire essence. Here 40 wood, 10 oil, 20 coal. You just select whichever one you're wanting to get the details on. This is time, current year, how long you've got till the next season. So you start in drizzle, you've got clearance, then you've got the storm. Hostility level of the forest. The more woodcutters you have, it goes up. Building more hearths, etc. That lowers impatience, and so on. What effects are on? At the moment these two are applying, these two aren't. We don't have trade at the moment, we've not unlocked it yet. We don't have consumption control, again we've not unlocked it. The recipes panel, and the menu. Now another thing you want to do early on, just go into the menu, go to options, go to gameplay, scroll down to the bottom, because there's some useful things that you can turn on for here, and that's the auto pause. And what I tend to do is turn on these bottom three. A pause when you discover a dangerous glade, a forbidden glade, and a trader arrives. Now the first two, that's because you want to have a look to see what is needed to deal with whatever bad stuff is in that glade, because these will always have something that will cause bad stuff if it's not dealt with. Traders, well, traders, they're only around for a limited length of time. So again, you might want to pause and have a look to see what they've got, to see, oh, can I really want to get that particular thing? Can I manage to make something that they're interested in buying that would let me do it? So that's all that done. We'll go back. And the other thing is, down here at the very start, you have a number of blueprints you can choose. You don't have to choose them now. It's always worth having a look at the first one. You won't get another choice at the very start unless you've again got some upgrade stuff that lets you re-roll. I think blueprints are re-rolled with amber. Also, as you upgrade, you might get more options here. But let's see if we've got a good example. Actually, here we go. Smokehouse and Brickyard. Both of these can make pottery, and this will give you a good example of the whole star thing I was talking about earlier. If we look at the Smokehouse, we click on that. That can make pottery, and it makes 5 pottery per run, assuming there's no other modifiers. It takes 4 clay by default and 5 wood. Okay. The Brickyard, this can also make pottery, but this is a 2-star recipe. It only takes 3 clay. Just as much wood, but only 3 clay, so 1 less clay to make the same number of pots. So that's what the difference on the stars are. So what have we got near us? This is where you want to look. There are some things you're always going to want. You're always going to want a woodcutter's camp early on. Just because, at the end of the day, wood is what you build most stuff from. You're also probably going to be wanting to gather resources from where you are. So the resources we've got, we can get plant fibre with a chance of clay and insects, or we can get meat with a chance of leather. Now we're lizards. Lizards like jerky and skewers as complex food and pie. Now we can make jerky, we can make skewers even. We can look at what they're made from. Now jerky by default can be made from insects. Now if you click on this, you can see what else it can be made from. And that's meat. And it's cooked with one of these. So as we've only got lizards, there's a 3-star jerky recipe there and a 2-star skewer recipe. So the jerky one, 4 meat gives you 10 jerky. Skewers, 4 meat plus 4 vegetables or 4 eggs or whatever to give you 10 skewers. That is probably harder to do than 4 meat plus some wood for cooking. So we want to, let's take that. The farm, the plantation, the foragers camp. Now this is where a good example of where I'd wait. Because taking these is all very well, but if you don't actually find any fertile soil, and we haven't got any where we start, these are useless. Conversely, you might find a large deposit that requires the large foragers camp, because the basic ones, notice how you've got the small foragers, small herbalists, small trappers? Well, those can only harvest from small nodes. They can't harvest from large or giant ones. So in this case, we might as well wait before picking that. We know we're going to be doing a woodcutter's camp. We got food here that requires a trapper's camp. You know, once I've selected it, it's showing the deposits and what you can get from them. Now the arrow is the way they come in and out of the building. Now you may not be aware, you can move a lot of buildings by just clicking on them and you got them move. Most can be moved for free. Some actually have a cost to move, and some can't be moved at all. The ones that can't be moved at all are the ones that tend to be the sort of top tier service buildings and production buildings. Now these two, I've got one going that way, one going that way, because the no-brainer thing to do is to have a little path there, so then trappers can come out of here, go and harvest stuff. They can easily get to the thing. They got a road to go along. Same for the woodcutters, because we're going to go for this glade initially. So we're setting up what we're doing before we unpause. We're not at this stage going to build a smokehouse because, well, we've only got 9 people. There's going to be 3 in there. There's 2 in there. That only leaves 4 others. I want to get through to there as quickly as possible. So I'm going to actually build a second. I can't build there, it's not letting me. Basically, I think because that back corner of it is in the woods. So I'll put it there initially. I can move it later. I'm going to go 2 wood camps. And that's going to be 6, 8 of my 9 people. But there's also 1 in the half, so that's going to be everyone in action. So I'm going to hit space to unpause. I'm just going to hit 3 times speed just to speed things up for a bit while they get onto it. Now you notice they're building the road first because they tend to build things in the order you've set them up if you've not played about with the priority. But that's not bad, you know, we want them to be getting on with... So I'll pause now. So now we've got our first cornerstone up here. And this can also help decide what buildings you go for. So for example, we've got meat specialisation, so meat production increases by 1 every 25 times it's produced. Well, we're already producing meat, that's going to be good. And exploration contract. 20 reed and 20 clay for each discovered glade. Either of these are actually quite good. I'll go for this one. Reason being, at the moment, we've not got many people. We've not got anyone spare. We're not harvesting the reeds from over here. So reed and clay, guaranteed, straight away, is good. We've got this built. So we want to stick some lizards in here. So now they'll come in there, they'll start harvesting. Likewise, we want to stick 2 lizards in here. Now, one thing here, you've got a specialisation bonus. And these guys have got this ring around them. If you hover over, this worker has a 10% chance of doubling their yield. Now, every race has a specialisation. For lizards, it's animal and meat production, and it's working in warm environments. If you look at it, oops, not there. There, the smokehouse. Actually, I don't want to put that in there. Let's put it in here. Food, smokehouse. Okay, it's not showing it. The smokehouse is, I believe, if I remember correctly, a warm environment. So Everyone's done. I'm going to put the lizards in there. So now we've got all our lizards are working. We've got 0 there. 0 builders. Hit space again to speed up. You see they're chopping down there. And we've got our first orders appear now. We can open that up and look at them. Now, with orders, you can go, I'll come back to that later. But you've got to pick this one before you can even look at what the options are here. Now, we've got a choice of pack of 3 provisions, pack of 3 crops, and anything where it's like this, where it's got packs of, or quantity of something, that will, you need to have that much in your warehouse, and then it's taken from your warehouse. Sometimes you'll see things where it requires planks here, and you'll get the same or more planks back. And then yes, so you will obviously end up with that same number of planks in your warehouse. But these rewards go into your warehouse, unless of course there's something like newcomers. Now here, this one is obviously the good one for us to go to, because it requires 2 woodcutter camps. We've already got 2 woodcutter camps and 30 wood. We've got 2 woodcutter camps with 6 people working in there, so we should get 30 wood relatively quickly. So we're going to go for that one. And in fact, this is highlighted because we can actually deliver that right now. We won't straight away, we'll just quickly see what the others are before we deliver. So this is sell goods worth at least 10 amber to a trader or trade routes. Now we can't do trade routes, and we can't, full stop, we can't do trade routes, and we don't yet have a trader here. We don't really have much in the way of goods full stop to sell, so this one is probably the one that's going to be better to do. 10 amber worth of goods, or 8 plus 4, but we've got no real source of amber. You can buy amber from the trader, but 4 amber would actually cost you 5 amber worth of goods. But I think this one's probably better because we actually get a decent amount of amber to spend afterwards. And this one, okay. This requires us to build a trader post and have amber. Now this one, have at least 6 lizards for 30 seconds. The rewards are Trapper's Camp. We've got a small Trapper's Camp built at the moment, but if we get this blueprint, it will automatically upgrade our existing Trapper's Camp. Tanning racks, which increase our leather production. And our Trapper's Camp at the moment is gathering meat with a chance of leather, so that's good. And some insects. And, again, we've got 9 lizards at the moment. That's a no-brainer. We'll deliver this one. We've now got a person. We have 1 human and 10 lizards. You extend that out, and now this lighter treatment is available. Now, one thing I'll say with the lighter treatment is the way the resolve works. Now, you've got this line here. If the resolve is ever at that line or above it, you start slowly gaining reputation. If this is ever at 0, the resolve, you'll then have a red circle appear that will slowly go down over the course of about a minute, and at the end of that, one of that population will go, and then the red thing will start again, and then I'll go, and so on. Also, because we completed an order, we got a point of reputation, and we got another blueprint. So we now got 3 blueprints to choose from again. But just as before, there's no point us building, picking up blueprint until we know what we want to do with them. But we do have 2 spare workers. So what's worth doing at this point is some shelter. And the reason is, we'll slap down 4 of those. As I mentioned earlier, you've got the upgrade requirements. The upgrade requirements have 8 villagers housed and 4 decorations, 4 comfort decorations. So we put the houses down, and there's the park you can build, which is actually 4 decorations in one. We'll slap that there. So as we get wood, these two these two people who aren't working will then pick it up and start building those. And then when they're built, this will automatically upgrade and we'll get a bit of a benefit. But at the moment, well, there we go. We've now done the lizards thing. We've had the 6 lizards for long enough. So if we look now, this is at the moment a small trappers camp. We hand this in. It is now a trappers camp. So suddenly our production on these, we're going to be getting slightly more and slightly faster. So all in all, that's good. And again, we've got another blueprint unlocked, so we've got 4 there. Our first house has been built. So humans are really happy. But then again, there's only one of them needs one of them needs a house, and then bam, they're all fully housed. There's 10 lizards, so. And we have opened our first glade. And it's a forbidden one. So what have we got here? Well, we've got some farmland here. That's good. So that means our blueprint choice gets a bit easier. We've got some large deposits, and that can only be opened during gathered via a forager's camp. You notice how that's greyed out? Well, what that means is, at the moment, we can only build a small forager's camp, so we can't actually gather these roots. We've got an abandoned cache, and you've got a choice of whether you get to keep the goods or send them to the citadel, and you can change what you use to try and open that cache. We've got nothing that can actually be used to do that, so that's obviously irrelevant. And then we got this, and this is the bad thing. You'll always have a timer up here, and when that timer is completed, these things will happen. Destroys all planted crops in farm fields. At the moment, we've not actually got any farm fields, so that's irrelevant. -8 to global resolve. Yeah, that is bad. I mean, the lizards are only going up to 8 resolve at the moment, and come the storm season, they'll have a penalty. So, yeah, that's bad. Food production is 60% slower while this event is being worked on, but there's no other requirements. Now, this is a really good event at this stage because we have 2 people that aren't working, so we can straight away stick them on there, and then we'll be able to start this event. Once they've got there, 2 minutes 30 seconds, it will complete. Now, before we can start, you need to choose what to get. So either you can send it to the citadel, which gets you half a point of reputation and 10 amber, or you can choose to keep the goods. It'll give you some parts, some mushrooms, and also 2 food stockpiles, which means at the end, instead of 16 I originally said, we'd be getting 18. I have a tendency to play slightly longer games, so I tend to keep goods rather than investigate, rather than send it back to the citadel. So hit investigate, and that will start. Now, whenever you open a glade, you'll get this circle, and that's the other reason why the pause is quite useful, because you can look on that circle and you can actually see what is there in total. So we've got some mushrooms here somewhere that I hadn't seen, flax field, root deposit, fertile soil, abandoned cache, and the leaking cauldron. So yeah, you got the mushrooms there, you got the flax field there. And the mushrooms there are a good example. They can be gathered with either the small herbalist camp, which we can build, which is why it's in blue, and the larger and the full-size one, which we can't build, which is why it's in brown. So, in terms of farming, or the next thing, what do we want to go for? Well, we know we've got this stuff here, but we also know we've got some fertile fields. Let's go for this because it's they're both 2-star recipes. Go for the plantation. Got a number of things here. Leather worker can produce water skins. Lumber mill can produce planks really well. Carpenter can produce planks, not quite so well. Also simple tools. And luxury goods. This can also do luxury goods and fabric. This can do trade goods and scrolls. I find the lumber mill is very powerful, especially early on if you're getting lots of wood, which we are on this. Now we've got another chance at the foragers camp. I'm going to grab it now because we do have that large node, and I'm just going to save the last one. Provisioner is very useful later on, primarily because you need packs of provisions to trade with other settlements. Because you not only need the goods you're selling them, you need to feed the people taking those goods to them. And the tavern is one of the service buildings. Now these are special. If you look at this, they all have a passive effect when there's 3 people in there. And this one adds +3 to global resolve if you've got a tavern built with 3 people in it. Irrespective of whether or not people's needs for leisure and brawling are being fulfilled, you always have +3 to resolve if you've got a tavern built. But again, we're going to save that, just see what happens. And again, everyone is working, so at the moment all we're doing is just letting things happen. So they're just cutting through there. We're going to want to probably tidy this up. We want to try and get this sort of farming area cleared out. So we've got 4 minutes roughly till the storm, but we've got less than 4 minutes till this will finish, so that's good. And that is sort of some of the basics, just to get you started. Some of the things that won't be obvious from having just done the tutorial, you might have missed. So as you see, you know, we've started off, we're progressing well. We've got almost all the population housed. The reason why I went for this rather than finishing the production is, pause that, is this is going to slow down our food production. So I wanted to get this done as quickly as possible. And it's now virtually finished. They're basically just going to be carting all this stuff back to the warehouse. And now the first sort of thing is cut. We want to think about where we'd want to go next. And at this level, I tend to often go for a glade every season, a dangerous glade every year. So we've already done one. So for the moment, I just want to let's get rid of some more trees here just to make a better path through to this, which is going to be a farming area ultimately. And likewise for here, we want to get rid of these glades, these trees in the middle of the glade, because that's space, and space is useful. You know, some of the buildings, I mean, they're the size of, say, the ancient hearth. So you need space to actually build them, and so that people can move around and what have you. And you note as well, they've got a forbidden glade here and dangerous glade. Forbidden glades tend to have tougher things to solve, tougher glade events than dangerous glades. And now we're in the storm, and this effect is applying. We're at -4 hostility. You see that there? People's resolve is going down. But it's not really an issue. They've finished the glade event. We've got this house being built now. So everyone is now housed. So that's going to make people happier. Almost everyone. There's a couple of lizards that aren't. Their house has just been built now. I just paused again. So this guy needs to move over here. And as I said, I want to plan to cut through to a glade. So I don't want to do it early, so I'm just going to mark the trees carefully on this side of it, not all the way through, so that when I'm ready, I can cut through nice and quickly. A few more trees there, and a few more trees there. That'll be fine. I'll hit space again. I just want to show you what happens with the hearth when it upgrades. So we're into a new year, so you get new cornerstone available, newcomers, and this hearth is now upgraded, and it has this effect: +2 to global resolve. Ancient's hearth resistance to corruption is increased by 150. So if you look up here, the hearth is giving us -30 to hostility. People's resolve is going up because they've got this +3 from the sacred, from the encampment effect and the sacred pyre. And that's it. Now I'll quickly look at the cornerstones. Okay, so deserted caravans. Global production is 50% faster, but trading is unavailable. Or rigorous training. For every 5 villagers with a need for brawling fulfilled, the chance of bringing back twice as many goods from events increases by 20%. Now, we've got this here. Taking this means this order could never be filled. So that is bad. So it's a no-brainer. And we can get some more people. And we find out what our third race is, and it is beavers. So we might as well get our third race. We got a couple of beavers, so, well, beavers are great, actually. Beavers are great at anything involving wood, including a lumber mill. So we're going to want to build a lumber mill. We don't yet have any bricks or any fabric, which means we also need to build the crude workstation. Now the recipes here have got this little symbol. Basically, this is like half a star effectively. So anything with that symbol, it's the worst, but it can do it. But we want to quickly just cut through to that glade so we can see an example of what a Forbidden Glade event looks like. So let's also move the second woodcutter help over there. These are now grey because we're out of range. Pause again briefly. We can tell someone to go in here. Now the limit, this limit is how many of whatever. So in this case we're going to want a limit of 2 fabric and 2 brick. Not 23, 2. We don't want any pipes, we don't want any planks. Because the whole point is this is going to produce planks far, far better. Give you a clue of how much better? Well, this will produce 8, takes 8 wood to produce 2 planks, slowly. This will take 3 wood to get 2 planks and be far faster. So it's over twice as many planks as you'd get out of here. We'll quickly stick a couple of beavers in here, just to build that, while the rest of the stuff goes on, and we will extend the road while we're at it. Extend the path. And plough the fields. The white square you see around the plantation, that is the fields it can actually work. So you sometimes have to sort of look around and work out where can you put the farm or the plantation or whatever so that it can actually work all the fields, and sometimes you find it can't actually work all the fields that you have. But we have a couple of extra orders, you pick those. So that's a good one because we're cutting into glades, we're about to cut into one, so that'll be one of the 3 already done. Aid for the lizard clan, aid for the human clan. Now, you've probably noticed here, lizards, human and beaver resolve is quite high before you get a bonus. Lizard, well, you only need to get to 15 for them to start getting a bonus. So, and whenever you've got a full reputation point from the bonus, that blue line moves up. The best race for getting reputation that way is actually harpies, but lizards are the second best, so that's why we will go for that. We're not going to do anything yet towards working on that, but that's for the future. That's needing packs of provisions, which is something to think about, because one of the blueprints we've got here lets us build packs of provisions. So that, again, is a strong one. Is now a stronger thing to pick. There's a reason for us not picking it straight away. Meanwhile, Now you note both of these are working on bricks. And that's because even though there's a limit of 2, it's not a 2 in total being manufactured and stored everywhere. It's basically 2 in the warehouse. So there's 2 there because he's just finished. When he's finished, that will be 4. They won't make any more than that, but they will make more, sort of, if at the point they start it's not complete, the order's not complete. You can turn off both of those anyway and look at the Forbidden Glade. So this has a number of things in here, the main thing being the Fisherman Lighthouse. So these tend to be harder to complete, but luckily you see we've got 30 resin and we only need 15 to complete, but they also have better rewards and bigger penalties. So in 10 minutes, mesmerising light, strange evil lights coming from the top of the lighthouse, causing them to work 20% slower, and 1 impatient point. While we're working on it, increases the hostility of the forest by 100 for every hearth. The rewards, we can either convert it into a fisherman's lighthouse that is a source of sea marrow, or we can get all this as salvage. Actually, that's quite good. We've got people spare, so that's actually a really good. So we've got a really strong start here. Now the other things are here. You've got another source of meat. You've got a good source of clay, which we didn't have before. You've got a large abandoned cache, and that includes some machinery, which again is a citadel resource. It's something you can get, sort of that counts towards getting upgrades. There's a medium cache, and then there's an abandoned clan hall. And again, this is another one of the buildings where you get a benefit if there's 3 people in. And note this specifically says it can't be moved. But yeah, this is a really good glade, and it's definitely worth working on this straight away, because sea marrow is quite valuable, and it's also a fuel source, and we didn't have a source of it for it before. And because we've got the bricks complete, you can take that guy out of there now. And there you go. That is some beginner tips and just the start of the first thing. A bit explaining some of the things that you were just told to do in the tutorials. Hopefully you found this useful. If you've got any comments, stick them down below. And with that, I'm going to say farewell. Catch you later.